Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Team for OrthoLite. I'm so excited today to welcome Steve Sousa to the program, who is our specialty account manager for North America. Welcome to the show, Steve. It is awesome to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you very much. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And it's Friday. We're in the beginning of February of 2023. I know many people might be listening to this at different times in the year, but I'm really excited to dive into just your background in footwear, how you found OrthoLite, and then really just kind of riding shotgun through all the changes that are happening in footwear. So let's dive right into it. Would you mind just sharing a few career highlights and how you found OrthoLite?
Yeah, as a starting point, I was thinking nobody really decides they're going to be in the footwear business. When you're in high school, in college, you don't go, boy, I want to be in the footwear business. So most of us in this business that have been in it for a long time, the business kind of found us. We didn't really find the business. I was lucky to actually grow up working in a really great running specialty shop in high school and college in Allentown, Pennsylvania, called Aardvark. And I had no idea that I wanted to be in the footwear business because I really didn't want to be at that time. But growing up working in a running shop, I got to learn a lot about the brands and what consumers were looking for. So even before my first job, which was with Adidas in the early 1990s, I already had a lot of years of formal training working in a running specialty store.
I personally think that retail is the absolute best training. I mean, you have no filter between what the brands are telling you to sell and the consumer. And I just feel like that's a perfect way to start a career in footwear, personally.
Yeah. And this was obviously pre-internet days when really face-to-face sales and kind of homing in on your selling skills was really important.
Right. And it still is. And I think also when you start in retail, it gives you a different direction and you really have a different approach in terms of like authenticity in your selling. Right.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about what after Adidas, tell us your path to OrthoLite. Tell us how you found us.
Yeah, well, I've been with the company just a little bit less than 10 years. And prior to that, I was working for a brand called MBT. And I had the opportunity, OrthoLite was looking to expand their sales force. And they had reached out to me through a mutual friend. And I had the chance to come to Boston and meet Pam and Glenn in person. And really, after that first meeting, within 10 minutes, I knew that this was the company and job and team that I wanted to work for. And lucky for me, to really being at the tail end of my career, that I'm really ending my career with the best position that I've had in my entire footwear career. So I'm really lucky at this point to be a part of this team.
Well, and you must have started when you were 13. I can't believe you're getting toward the end of your career.
I am. I'm hoping I'm towards the end of my career.
No. Well, I'm assuming that when you first sat down with the founders of the company and Glenn Barrett specifically, things really clicked. And there must be something there about what you learned at retail, caretaking, the detail orientation you probably gained at Adidas, and just kind of the fun approach and entrepreneurial spirit that Glenn has. Is that part of the reason you were drawn?
Yeah, for sure. Well, of course, Glenn is a huge sports fan and I'm a huge sports fan. Even though he roots for the wrong team and the New York teams, and I root for the right Philly teams, we still love for sports and also the footwear business. A lot of the people that Glenn has worked with over the years, I also knew. So we kind of had a common connection that a lot of the people and connections that he had were the same. So we kind of hit it off right away. And like I said, just in the first 10 minutes, I told myself after meeting him, this is the company I want to be with.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the job. Like, what are the best parts about the job? I realize it has changed precipitously, and we're going to get into that too in terms of the footwear industry and the dynamics of that. But what are the things that you still love through all these years working with OrthoLite and getting to serve the customers and being that consummate guide through the entire process? Because I'd love to have you explain kind of, this is not a one and done. This is not a selling job. This is a partnership with the customer. So tell me a little bit about what your favorite aspects are of what you do.
Yeah. So one of my favorite aspects is the ability to actually work with a lot of different customers. So being a material supplier like OrthoLite, we get the opportunity to call on a lot of customers and go inside their corporate environment. And we get to learn everything they do from a product development, sourcing, material standpoint. So we actually get the inside look at a lot of different companies. And for a lot of people in the footwear business, they may have worked for 2 or 3 brands in their entire life. But for the Ortholite sales team, we work with about 500 different brands as a group. So it's really exciting to actually see all these different companies, of course, meet a lot of people. And the part that we find that's, I think, the most satisfying is when we start to work with a new program with a new customer and we see it start small and it grows to be really big and super successful. And our insoles are really a key part of their shoe, especially when it's a brand that's really perceived to be a performance and a comfort brand. And they start to work with us and they start to have success. As I mentioned, we get in a few programs in the beginning and it keeps growing. That's kind of like the funnest thing of doing the business.
And at Adidas, were you in product development, Steve?
I was actually. So when I first started with Adidas in the early 90s, the people that worked there, we were like jack of all trades, to be honest. We were product people, we were designers, we did promotions, trade shows. We did a little bit of everything. And then over the years, as the company grew, it started to get a little bit more specialized. And then you had more people more focused on product development, sales and marketing. But in the early years, we did a little bit of everything, which was a lot of fun.
And I think that definitely was good training for Ortholite. And I'd love for you to talk about the long process that you're on with the brands you work with. Like, obviously, there's years, there's seasons.
Yes.
There's key development milestones. There's changes in the industry. Like, you really have seen it all at this point. And I feel like you are almost like a consultant, a very seasoned consultant in terms of how you're working with your customers. And I would love for you to just talk about that a little bit, especially against the backdrop of how the industry is changing globally.
Yeah. I mean, just to talk a little bit about working with the customers is because we get to work with so many different brands, we are kind of, we're really like part of their product development team. One of the things to talk about, the sales, the account managers in general, I always tell customers, we're not really salespeople. We're more like product developers that have come to work with you on your projects. And I think that comes out, when we're doing projects, we fully understand what their needs are, what they're looking for in a product, what their performance is. And of course, nowadays, part of what our selling story is the need to make more eco and sustainable products. And Ortholite, no doubt, is a leader in that category. And for a lot of our customers, they're just on the brink of starting to add sustainability of importance into their product. And we've already been working on this for many, many years. So we bring a lot of insight in that category. So that's what's kind of been new and exciting, I'd say, in the last 2 years, is for the customers to say, hey, we need to start to tell a sustainable story. And Ortholite, we're like the leader in that category. So that's a lot of fun.
I bet. We can get into kind of the brand and component conversation here in a minute, but I know you were recently in Vietnam as well as Norway. I'd love for you to share a little bit about what it's like to travel to see your customers in our factories.
Yeah, that's like Vietnam and Norway. That's like I just spun it and hit 2 random points.
Yep.
And they told me to pack my sample bag and get going. So to start with Vietnam, obviously it's the first time that I traveled to Asia post-COVID. And I went to take a couple customers over to visit both our insole factory as well as our new Circle midsole factory. And from that perspective, it's really exciting and almost an honor to take customers to your factories, because Ortholite and myself, we are so proud to show off what our factories look like. They're so beautiful, clean, and modern. Our people over there are so great to work with. Like, all of our customers are extremely impressed. So that was part of what I did when I went to Vietnam. And then I specifically went to Norway to work with a couple outdoor brands there. So I saw summer and winter within a month of each other.
That's awesome. I love that. Tell me this, and I asked some of your colleagues, I'm going to ask all of your colleagues the same, so you guys can listen to these and kind of beat up on each other because I know you have that fun culture. But how would your sales teammates or maybe your team leaders describe you as a travel partner?
I am probably one of the most boring ones out of the group for sure. um, because I'm an early to bed riser and I hit the gym before the workday starts. Not that I won't have a beer, but it'll probably end by about 9 o'clock at night. So I think they enjoy traveling with me, but they know it's always going to be a quiet night.
Okay. And then how about your customers? I know you really take a lot of pride with your love for
Yeah.
sports, like everywhere you go. Like, tell me what it's like for you to visit your customers. Like, what's a perfect opportunity there?
Okay, that's a great question. So being a sports fan, and of course, most of our customers are all sports fans too, is I love to go to a city and take a customer out to whether it's a ball game, basketball game, or hockey game within their city. And for a lot of the customers, they actually don't get a chance to do this because they're really busy between the job and family. So they actually appreciate to be able to go out and get away from the office, get to learn to meet somebody a little bit more one-on-one. So that's a lot of fun.
I bet. And you mentioned you have like a really wide amount, not even amount, but a diverse range of brands. Do you see that as an athlete as almost a way to cross train? Like you obviously would, it's not about proprietary
Yeah.
information. Please hear me. It's about approaches that you're seeing in different footwear categories, potentially helping to like shorten the learning curve or create better results across a different category. Do you find that to be the case?
I do. I do. And I mean, one of the good examples I think of that, and I tell this to all of my customers, regardless of their category, is, the footwear business has become very athletic driven. Everything has to almost feel and perform like an athletic shoe, whether it's a dress shoe or a work boot or even a Western boot. And, Ortholite, we are the leaders really when it comes to the athletic insole business. So we've kind of taken our foam success stories and everything we stand for in the athletic business, and we've been able to really translate it really well to the other brands.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. So I'm not going to go like deep on the whole COVID topic, but I
Yep.
would be remiss not to ask you about it. Obviously, you focus most in North America, and you just talked about how much you really revere being with your customers, whether
Mhm.
it's like working with them on projects in their offices, visiting them in their corporate environments, or taking them out and doing fun stuff. Like, I have two questions around this. Like, number one, how did you keep those relationships going? And number two, what were you most proud about with Ortholite when we got through, not that we're completely done, but through the pandemic era, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer the second question first. The thing I was most proud about Ortholite was that we were able to really navigate these tough waters through our factories around the world, specifically in Asia. Our factories never completely closed. We were able to keep them up and running. And more importantly, we were able in a safe way, be able to get products to all the shoe factories on time. So that was really exciting because when COVID first broke out, our customers reached out to us and said, hey, knowing what's going on in the world, are you going to be able to deliver product? And we were able to deliver product to everybody 100% on time. So that was really amazing.
It's kind of a miracle.
Kind of a miracle in
really
a lot of
amazing.
ways. No doubt about it. I mean, for what our people did, just give them a lot of credit. To answer your first part of the question was, we were no different than everybody else where we stayed with really what I call constant contact as best as possible.
Uh-huh.
And, with Zoom meetings and things like that, like everybody, we seem to make it work. But at the same time, there's like a fine line, Kristen, on like how many times you can ask somebody to have a Zoom meeting. Because I noticed at the end of COVID, there was starting to be a little bit of burnout from everybody involved, even whether it was in your own company. So right when COVID kind of ended, I would say customers were extremely happy when I said, hey, do you want to get together for face to face? They were so happy to have in-person meetings once again.
I also was really amazed with how Ortholite kept innovating through COVID. And that goes for people and process and also risk mitigation. And I think that you handling the customer load that you do, meaning a wide range of customers who are really in a lot of different categories and a lot of different time pegs, if you will, along production all at the same time. I really think you probably had a purview of this that was very different from most of your colleagues on the Ortholite sales team. And where I'm really going with this is thankfully we were able to rise to the occasion, but you know how we became faster and smarter if we were willing to as people through COVID, but it's like the whole company did. And now I feel like we're much more in tune to what risk mitigation really is going forward, in terms of how we can stand up things for our customers from a solution standpoint, how we can be nimble, and how we're able to really just continue to guide them through this ever-changing process that keeps moving so quickly. I don't know if you'd agree, but it really seems like we had almost upped our game and we're not looking back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And even with the new Circle midsole technology, which will be launching 2023, 2024, a lot of this development in the heavy work was all done during COVID time, really under the most extreme circumstances of how do you have people travel from country to country when there's a lockdown and a ban, and we somehow were able to do it.
Yeah, it's something I think all of us are super proud of. So let's switch back into my interview mode. I'm curious if you have a person that you would name as an influential leader in your life and how they impacted you.
You know, I don't want to say take the politically correct answer, but the answer that really comes to my mind is my parents. And I took a lot of things that carry into my work life, really from my childhood life, from what my parents taught me. And, one of those things about my parents was they put other people first before them. And I think I tried to adopt that, whether it was with my customers or my colleagues, but really think about helping other people, and putting both their feelings and sometimes their priorities before your own. And I think that has actually served me well over the years.
I mean, I just got to know you more well in the last quarter of 2022. And I would say that is completely spot on in terms of your approach as a team member at this company. And I bet your customers feel the same. I also just want to add that he's fun. I mean, he sounds like a serious guy in this interview, but Steve's actually really funny. I laugh a lot when we have to work on stuff together and check in.
For sure. Thank you.
That's awesome. So, obviously, you've been in footwear for a long time and you've talked a lot about the changes that you've seen. Here we are at the beginning of 2023. And I know you talked a lot about how you feel well equipped to serve in terms of how things are changing from like sustainability, certification standpoint. A lot is changing in manufacturing. So I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add in terms of kind of short or midterm changes on the horizon that you're anticipating to help your customers through as we're kind of continuing out of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and this is kind of a common theme for a lot of the brands, is a speed to market. Right now, a lot of the brands, have always worked off an 18-month, even maybe a longer time from to getting shoes in store on a shelf. And I think everybody is trying to figure out how you shorten those timelines. And it's not necessarily an easy thing because the whole shipping problem that we're having right now logistically kind of throws a monkey wrench into that. But the idea that you can design and develop and basically find what your customers' needs are in a shorter amount of time, I think is really the key. And we're starting to see that to be more and more of an emphasis right now.
So as our customers grow, everything's moving faster and their needs are as well. And this is all part of the risk mitigation that we as a global company are committed to solving for. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. And it's not the easy path. We pride ourselves in not taking the easy road. So I love that you brought that up. So let's go into the lightning round as we look to wrap up here.
All right.
Yes. I see that you're already sitting down. So we're ready to go. Okay. So what do you like to do when you're not working?
You know what? I'm a golden doodle father. So I'm taking my dog for a walk. Is probably the number one thing I like to do when I'm not working. And I usually do it about twice a day, believe it or not. Usually it's the first thing I do in the morning and it's the last thing I do at night.
Oh, what's the golden doodle's name?
The name is Sage, which isn't necessarily the coolest name, but it's the name the breeder named her. So we just went with it.
And is this a full-size golden doodle?
It's a full-size golden doodle. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you feel like you look like your golden doodle?
No, I did not. But most people do look like their dogs. I agree with you 100%. But in this case, no, the dog is tall. I'm short. The dog is blonde. I got dark hair. The dog is smart. I am not so smart. So,
That's awesome. Okay. What superpower do you wish you had, Steve?
oh boy, you know what? Probably like everybody, want to be invisible, right?
I
Uh,
thought you were going to say tall.
well, I already know that there's no superpower that would make me tall. I would always be the same size. But no, I think would be invisible, right? The opportunity to be able to travel in silence, go places and see things without anyone bothering you. That would be kind of fun.
That is cool. And I already know this. I was going to ask if you're a night owl or an early bird. And I know you're an early bird because I am too. And we usually see each other at the gym in the morning.
Well, I agree, but I think Michael Scott once said that he is both a night owl and an early bird because he is wise and he eats worms. So I'm going to steal that from Michael Scott.
I like that too. So, what is your favorite drink at the bar when you are traveling for work?
You know what? I'm pretty adventurous. So when I'm traveling with somebody, I'll actually order, I'll let them order first, and I usually try what they're drinking.
Oh, cool. And
Yes,
then what's
unless it's a Shirley Temple, then I'll pass.
and what is your absolute favorite part of your role here at OrthoLite?
Uh, no doubt about it. It's the culture and the people within the OrthoLite. It's really just a great bunch of people. And it's easy to say that they're fun, but they're actually very highly educated in the footwear business. They have a lot of years of experience. So just to hear some of the stories and what their initial experiences in footwear business is a lot of fun.
I bet. And the last question I have, and this is a great question, and it does trip up a lot of people, but I gave it to you in advance. So I hope that you have a chance to think about it. So what is the most constructive insight or character definer that you've learned throughout your life and career that you would tell your 25-year-old self today?
You know what? I think it would be to have the ability to adapt. I think is probably the biggest thing. Just if you're going to be in a footwear career for a long time, you're going to have to be able to adapt to a lot of changing conditions. And it's no different than in business, right? The people and the brands that are successful have the ability to adapt. And sometimes that means you have to stay calm when things are a little bit rocky. But if you stick with it and you really love what you do, and for all of us, we love this industry, you can be in it for a long time and have some success and really enjoy the benefits of it.
That's awesome. Well, and just so everybody knows, we'll make sure that we include a photo of Steve with his dog Sage in the show notes, and anything else that we talked about here that's linkable, we'll put that as well. So thank you so much. There will be more interviews to come, but this was a great foundational talk, and it was wonderful to get to know you, Steve. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.